Hey, Justin Dyson here, Dyson Apiaries. I'm going to talk about our honey supers today, particularly our 9-frame setup. And I'm going to be introducing some new foundation and such, so stick right with us. Alright, so I have Camden here going to help us out today. What I'm doing today is I'm going to talk just a little about, I'm bringing these honey supers, I'm getting them ready for spring for the honey flow. They've been stacked up here. A lot of people ask, like, how do I store my honey supers? Well, you see it right here. I don't use any paramoth or anything. I just stack them up under a cover here, no lids. I do put a solid bottom on them to keep the mice from getting up in there, but I really have very little impact from wax moths, and the reason why is we have to make sure they're empty. Occasionally I'll have just a little bit here and there, and it's where some pollen was stored in my honey supers, but other than that, they're just fine. I'll show you a picture in here in just a second. A picture, and there's a bunch of dead wax moths laying on top of the comb. Actually right here, come right here, you can see we have dead wax moths right here, and the reason for that is there was not enough for them to live on. So the wax moth needs more than just wax. They need honey, they need pollen, they need something to be able to live on. Otherwise they perish. So what we have here is, this is a last year's super, and it's really good to do that. And sometimes I miss that. You can catch that wax there if you want, and melt it down. But so this is all drawn out comb, like so, and this is in a 9-frame configuration. I actually have the little spacer in here, if you can see that. I have the nailed in spacer. I have that in some of my boxes, some I don't. But first off, why do we run in a 9-frame configuration? I run 9-frame configuration in my honey supers only, not in my brood box. And the reason for that is, as the bees pull the comb out during the nectar flow, they come out a little beyond the edge of the wood. And that makes it much easier for you to uncap, whether you're using a knife, a hot knife, or a mechanized uncapper, whatever you're using. It makes it easier to get to that wax if it's out beyond the woodenware. And the bees will draw that out deeper than they normally would, as long as they're not rear and brood in it. If they're rear and brood, there's a defined depth for that wax. But for honey, they'll draw it out even deeper. So what I'm doing today is I have some new boxes that we've just put together and painted. These are all mediums, and then we have some new frames. These are Man Lake frames, right sale with the foundation already in, and the frame put together. I found it more cost effective for my operation just to buy them ready to go. But a lot of times you have trouble if you have brand new foundation. A lot of times, many of you've probably experienced, if you take a new box and you fill it up with brand new foundation all the way across, the bees don't want to come up to it. They want to dodge that. They don't want to jump on that. And so one of my friends, Brian Fisher down in Kannapolis, he actually he told me about this at one of the bee shows we were at. We were just chatting, and he said, one of the things I've learned to do is stagger. And you've probably heard of checkerboarding, and we do some of that for our brood boxes, but I'd never really done it in a 9-frame configuration. So I always started with 10 frames of foundation, because if we don't put foundation side by side like this, the bee space is incorrect, and the bees will end up drawing comb sideways, and sometimes they still do. But we want to run in a 9-frame configuration, and I want that drawn out further, and I want the bees to come up on that quicker. So one of the things that we're doing here today is I'm taking new foundation, some empty boxes, and what we're going to do is just basically checkerboard this. And there's kind of a bad frame in there. I'm going to set that one aside. But so we have 9 frames here, all drawn out, all fully drawn out. I can see down through there. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stagger it. One of the important things I always do is I make sure the outside 2 frames are drawn out. I don't want a piece of foundation against the wall. And so I'm just gonna take every other frame, and Camden over here is gonna put those in there, and I'm gonna replace that frame with that foundation. Rinse and repeat. There you go. We'll stagger every other frame. And we're just creating another box right here. That's going to be, we're just basically going to double our supers here by doing this operation. We're going to take every other frame, and there we go. Now we need to add 2 more frames to this one. One more. Yeah, you started with a foundation over here, so I always like to have a drone comb against the wall, and so we can just grab another drone comb right there. Now we have 2 9-frame boxes, and I've had really good success with the bees jumping up on this quickly because there's already some drone comb here and they're attracted to that. Whereas if it's all foundation, sometimes they don't really like that, and sometimes it actually causes swarming and stuff right when the nectar flow is starting, and we don't want that. So as I'm introducing foundation on my supers, I always like to use this method and stagger them in, and I've had really good luck. I mean, occasionally you'll get one they'll mess up a little bit, but really good luck of them. The bee space, it irritates them, and so they'll start drawing that comb out, and they're up here on that comb. So just one of the little techniques that we use here, getting ready for honey season, and that's what we're out here doing today, is just adding some boxes to our supply of honey supers. One more thing to add, I showed you that frame a minute ago that I pulled out. This is a frame that's kind of messed up. Now, it'll still work for a honey super, but here's what we don't want to do. We don't want to put a piece of foundation right up beside of that, because what they're going to do is they're going to end up pulling these brace combs. They're going to pull it straight across into this foundation, then we're going to have 2 bad frames. So if we have this scenario, leave the foundation out there, and let's put 2 good pieces of comb beside of it. So we have a nice drawn out frame, we'll have the junky frame, and they'll probably fix that during the honey flow, just like if it was a piece of foundation, and then another good frame. And so if we have that scenario, don't stack it up against a foundation frame. Put it in between 2 good frames. All right, so thank Camden here for helping me out today. He's going to work on these boxes with me. We have about 40 or 50 more to go, and 40 or 50 new boxes to add to the inventory today. And I hope this is helpful for you to kind of learn how we are setting that up, and get bees to move up on our honey supers and introduce some new foundation to it. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe.